Hi, and welcome to Voices for a Change. I'm your host, Danita Harris. I'd like to welcome you to this podcast that we will have diversity of thought, authentic expression, and enlightening perspective on topics and issues that are affecting our world. Today's discussion, being Black and a journalist. And I'm so happy to be joined by my colleagues here at News 5, my African-American colleagues here at News 5, to dive into this issue. The reason why we are talking about this today is because racism, social injustice, police brutality, we know they have infected the fiber of America for many, many years. And yet recent events have triggered an unprecedented movement to bring awareness to the mental and emotional fatigue that these ills have placed on Black people. The death of Ahmaud Arbery, a Black man shot and killed while jogging. The death of the incident with Christian Cooper, who was accused of threatening the life of a white woman while he was bird watching in Central Park. The death of Breonna Taylor, shot 8 times by a police officer in her own home. And then the name that we all know and hear every single day, George Floyd. His death at the hands of a white police officer who kept his knee on his neck for over 8 minutes has sparked civil unrest in the U.S. and the world. And now we hear the loud voices coming from the streets saying enough is enough and it is time for change. The whole world now, the death of George Floyd has sparked this movement where we must pay attention to these issues that have plagued America for many, many years. So today we want to dig into the topic of being Black and a journalist and what that is like for us here and really for journalists all across the world being Black. And we're going to start with the question that it sounds like a simple question, but again, here on Voices for Change, we are about authentic expression. So I want to encourage my colleagues today, as you are sharing your stories, as you are sharing your thoughts, feel free to speak from your authentic space. And I'm going to start with Frank. How are you doing?
Danita, I'm struggling. And this is not any different than any other day that I've experienced in my professional career as a journalist. In fact, what I had experienced prior to even setting foot in a newsroom. I think anger is ever present in the Black experience. I think anger is exacerbated by the fact that over the last couple of weeks, I'd say the last few weeks, I've actually received phone calls, texts, emails from people who I knew when I first started my career, people that I interned with, who reached out to me randomly, who said, Frank, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I could have spoken up in this instance or that instance, and I didn't. Which begged the question, why do you feel compelled now? Is there guilt, or are you sincerely concerned? Anger, because one has to constantly fight to bring some semblance of necessity to stories that we pitch on a regular basis. Anger, because now we see in many publications across the country and newsrooms that broadcast on television and radio, they are constantly on board, or they're randomly on board, I should say, with this struggle. They're on the bandwagon to talk about these issues now. Why now? Why did it take someone to have 400 years, the weight of 400 years of oppression on his neck, and have the life squeezed out of him for you to be awakened, to be concerned? Anger because of all those issues. Anger because you constantly have to prove yourself no matter how well you performed the last time. Anger because you know that there are disparities in so many other ways. It's not just about the interaction that this gentleman had with police. It's about being followed in malls. It's about pretextual police stops. It's about people not believing you when you say this is your chosen profession, and they got to Google you while you're standing right there. Anger about the pay disparities that exist. Anger because people don't know about the pay disparities that exist unless they're directly impacted by it. That's how I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. And I want to add that Frank Wiley, he is an anchor here at News 5. We're going to go now to Jade Jarvis, who is a reporter. Jade, how are you doing?
Hey, Danita. In a lot of ways, I feel so many emotions at once. Just an overwhelming sense of just feeling drained from taking in everything that you see on social media. And of course, working as a journalist, it is our duty to stay informed, but also because it's so personal, because I am African American, it's hard to continuously keep up with the news, to see that video of George Floyd played over and over again in newscasts and on autoplay on Facebook and on Twitter. So there is just a sense of feeling like I can't take anymore, but also knowing that I have a duty because of the job that I have to stay informed and to let people know what's going on, especially here in Cleveland and the area surrounding Cleveland. And also, like Frank, I do feel angry as well because, like he said, we've seen this happen time and time again. I remember being an intern at Fox 29 in Philly and following the Freddie Gray case, and how horrified I was reading every single detail about that case, and also seeing the Michael Brown case and Tamir Rice, which still horrifies me to this day. So just seeing all of this happening yet again, and seeing the unrest and seeing the protests, and finally feeling like our voices are being heard, there is a sense of, anger, but also hope at the end of that as well.
Amanda Van Allen is a reporter here at News 5. How are you?
Danita, I think the best way to describe how I'm feeling right now is exhausted. That is the best word that I have. I am watching these images over and over. I am not only seeing them on my phone, but I'm also seeing them in my dreams while I'm sleeping. I'm waking up at night. I'm constantly thinking about this over and over and over. I am also, I don't know if the word is happy, relieved, or pissed, because so many of our colleagues, so many of people that I call friends, so many just people that I have interacted with in my life are finally waking up and seeing what we're seeing. And I wonder why it was this time. I was actually thinking about that as I drove home from work yesterday. Why this time? Why was it that knee in his neck that took everyone to wake up? And I'm just not sure why it's this time, because we've seen these videos over and over. And I also use the word exhausted because I feel myself comforting these people who are crying to me and reaching out to me, and they're so sad and they're so upset. And I'm just like, well, guys, we've been dealing with this for quite some time now. I know that you're a little overwhelmed and this is the first time that you're having an awakening, but I've been dealing with this for the several decades that I've been alive. So I just am exhausted, but I'm also hopeful that this will bring about change, not only in the world, but also in our workplace and other workplaces across the country.
Tanisha Cordell, reporting Nightside here for us at News 5. Share your feelings.
Well, Danita, I think for a while I was numb, you know what I mean? Trying not to be overwhelmed with all the feelings, that I do feel. I think too, I'm overwhelmed with emotion just talking and hearing, and the fact that we have to have this conversation right now is frustrating. I think in the days since all of this has happened or has just been, on display for other people of not of color. It's been a feeling of anxiousness, of just a gut-wrenching feeling, even as I'm writing scripts, trying to keep myself together before going on air, trying not to cry seeing these images, trying not to just say forget it all and join the, you know, the fight on the other end, questioning, am I doing enough? You know what I mean? Is my duty, you know, as a reporter, you know, just seeing, you know, my colleagues being arrested on air, being tormented online, getting these, you know, messages like Amanda, like Jade, like Frank are saying, what can I do? It's frustrating. And I echo everyone and, you know, the unrest around the world. Enough is enough. I think it's horrific. It's, I can't even put into words how I feel, but drained, tired, exhausted, frustrated. I feel it all at once. And again, I think it's personal. You know, my family at this time questioning, you know, are you sure you want to do this? You know, concerned about my safety on top of, you know, the daily struggles that we face as Black people in America. You know, my mom, you know, wanting to drive up to Cleveland just to be by my side, you know, not wondering if I'm going to be safe covering the next protest or just on the daily grind of doing my job and trying to give comfort and give hope in a time where we don't feel hope. So that's how I'm feeling. Enough is enough is how I'm feeling.
One of our assignment editors here at News 5, Helen Maynard, works behind the scenes, but definitely I'm sure you've heard and felt a lot of things from all directions in regards to this issue.
It's particularly difficult. I was making some arrangements for us to talk to one of the councilmen, and he asked me how I was feeling. And I told him I'm a lot closer to my rocking chair than I am to my college days. And I can't believe I'm going to be sitting in it telling the same stories my grandmother did. We are in the same place. It's this giant inertia in America of not being able to see where we need to go forward. And I have to echo my colleagues. People are calling and they're upset, and I understand. They're kind of coming out of the woodwork with how they didn't know it was like this or wanting to make sure they're showing support for what is happening now. But where was this years ago, and why now? And I really not sure I have the energy to comfort you. That's what you want. You want me to make sure you're okay. You're asking me if I'm okay, but you want me to make sure you're okay. Mm-hmm. I'm not able to do that right now. I cannot provide that for you. And so it's been very stressful. It's almost as if I can't really talk to anyone right now who's not a person of color. Because I can't take on the extra weight. And these are people I love and grew up with, but I can't talk to you right now. I just can't.
Cameron Justice, you work with our social media and also on our website. How have you been handling this? How are you doing today?
My initial reaction anytime anyone asks me that question is to just, you know, oh, I'm okay. I'm okay. But if I really think about it and I really ask myself how I am, I'm not okay. I'm really tired and I'm really exhausted, and it's been tough. I work on the digital side, so I get to have the pleasure of editing and checking all of the stories that are coming in, also maintaining the national stories that are coming in and reading those and staying up to date, writing the stories that are coming in. But then I think it's the most exhausting part is then having that digital platform. We put it on Facebook, we put it on Twitter, and then having to monitor comments and seeing the reaction to these stories. And you would think with all the unity that you're seeing, people asking, how can I help? How can I help? You would think there would be more positivity, but you would be wrong. You would be wrong. And it's just, it breaks my heart every day to read some of these comments and to see how easily people disregard these issues and disregard people for how they're feeling. It's so sad. It just makes me really, really sad. And then
And then when I'm done working, it's not over. It affects my life at work, not at work. And I'm still working when I'm not working. I am Black and I am white. I'm biracial. So I get on my social media, my personal pages, and I have my family on my white side taking stances against my other half. And it's so exhausting to have to be the voice of reason and to feel like it's my obligation to teach them, because they don't have my experience. They've never had my experience. They just know who I am. And it's really tough, because it's like, it's my job. It feels like it's my job and my responsibility. And if I don't have these conversations, and if I don't fight for them to understand, then I feel just as guilty for letting them go on with the way they think. So every day is just it's a lot of work. So I'm okay in a sense, but I'm mostly not okay right now. And I'm just really tired, and I'm just ready for things to change and get back to being able to feel a little bit relaxed. I've never really felt relaxed, but just to ease some of this burden, if we can get some kind of change, some kind of momentum, and other people stepping up and allies coming in and helping take the load off, I feel like I would feel a little better every day.
I truly appreciate all of your responses to that. Some people think that's just such a simple question, but as we hear from your responses, it's a very deep question for us, especially right now. I'm going to start with Amanda on this one. Amanda, when you go out and you are covering stories around this issue, what is the mood? What is the climate that you're feeling in the community?
Danita, I think it depends on where we're going to get those stories, right? So if we're going into Cleveland City Center, there is obviously going to be a lot of people who are chanting Black Lives Matter. They're excited about the movement. They are ready to take a stand. And, generally that is if I'm being honest, pretty easy reporting day for me, because I don't only have to just report the news, but I also mentally don't have to sort of take all of this stuff in and continue to be as unbiased as I possibly can. So those days are pretty simple. Then I go into a community like I did a couple days ago, where it is predominantly white and predominantly rich. I believe the average income in that place was $67,000 a year, and 98% of the people who live there are white. And they started to board up their businesses ahead of a very peaceful protest that was put on by a 15-year-old. They boarded up all their businesses. They were so afraid of what could have been. And when I went to talk to those business owners, it really broke my heart, because I asked them if they were worried about, she's like, we're really sad that we have to do this. I can't believe it's come to this. And I said, wait, are you upset about boarding up your businesses, or are you upset about the injustices and the racial disparities? And she's like, oh, no, we're upset because we have to board up our businesses. So it's just, sort of obviously being a reporter and being unbiased, but people not realizing that before I'm a journalist, I am a Black person. And to hear things like that as a Black person, it's very, very hard to continue with my day. So you do the story, you are as unbiased as possible, and then you figure out how to cope with it. For me, I cry, or I do meditation, or I do yoga, or I run. I do a lot of physical things to try to get that stuff out. But there are also those days, like I said, when I just cry, because I know that there are so many people who just have hate in their hearts, and I still have to give them as much respect as I do everyone else. And that is my job. And sometimes it is very, very hard to do my job. but I continue to do it because not only are the stories of the Black community important, those other stories are also incredibly important as well. Because if we didn't know that that stuff was going on, we wouldn't really think that Cleveland was a place, or outside of Cleveland was a place where they weren't accepting. But it's very important to tell both of those stories so that people really know, hey, this is what's happening in Northeast Ohio. What can we do to try to fix this?
Tanisha, what has been your experience?
I think it's been very eye-opening for me. It's truly been just shocking. Again, that gut-wrenching feeling as you drive through our communities and seeing it just patrolled by, you know, the National Guard and all these officers just ramping up, you know, their presence. That's been a little bit fearful for me, you know, kind of ramping back that layer of being a reporter. If I didn't have that badge or my ID showing that I was a reporter and that I was, you know, credentialed and allowed to be out and about, what would happen to me? You know what I mean? Would I be in another situation? Would I be another hashtag? Would I be on, you know, going viral on a video of you know, something happening to me? It's truly, it makes me fearful. I don't like it. And just seeing, you know, others in the community having to wake up to it day in, day out. It's hard, but you come in and you try to, you know, again, be resilient and provide some type of hope and positivity and you know, sharing their voices and sharing their struggles, sharing their pain, sharing their trauma that, you know, everyone is experiencing and has been experiencing before all this happened.
I am happy to bring in Aaron Clement, who works behind the scenes and one of our editors. You've been here a long time. And Aaron, I want to ask you first, how are you doing? And as a person, you are looking at these images day in and day out. You're cutting the video. You're hearing the sound over and over again. How has that experience been for you?
I find it quite difficult. I really do. The challenge for me there is that I see that, you know, the timeline seems like it moves so incredibly slow as for true, real progress. And so it would be one thing if we could clearly connect the incident to substantive change. And far too often we travel this road where it's like this cycle. It goes through the whole process of the event, the discuss, conversations, and poof, fizzle, nothing else happens. And so it's almost like we're just waiting for time to pass. And there's a segment of our community that's waiting for time to pass. Somehow this will just heal itself. And the challenge is that it does become very repetitive and wallpaper after a while. I mean, it is disgusting what transpired. You name the event, you know, whether it's, Minneapolis, whether it's Louisville, whether it's Brunswick, Georgia, and very little change actually comes from that. And so it's hard in the sense of watching this. And I try to be mindful in my editing and imagery that I use. But, you know, sometimes we need to see the raw and dirty of it to really appreciate what people of color have gone through and continue to go through in this country, to really say, so that it's not sanitized and that people can actually see, because, you know, far too often people are saying, well, I didn't know, or that, you know, you can brush it under the rug when it's once, when it's twice, or something like that. But I mean, this is almost like, it seems like it's almost a daily occurrence here now, that this is just ridiculous. And the challenge is, how do you edit the content to tell the story while keeping it relevant, so that it's not just that you're telling a story, but that you are invoking change and action.
Then being a journalist, it is extremely difficult seeing this day in and day out and not being able to say anything. Although we are journalists and we can give issues a voice, but yet at times I feel my voice is stifled. because I have to be objective, and I can't say we or I or me, and like I did something the other day, I'm breaking while broken. I'm reporting breaking news while I'm breaking. Nobody, when they turn on the TV, they don't really care that what my heart is feeling on the inside. They don't know what it feels like when I see that man with his knee on George Floyd's neck, and that could be my father, that could be my brother, that could be my son one day. No, they don't. They just want to see the same face. Then there's that extra pressure for me to present that face. But I think we also, as Black journalists, we have to have the wherewithal within ourselves to know when we don't have it. And we don't have the luxury of doing that too often. We don't have that luxury to say, I can't do it today. I'm not going to do that story. We don't have the luxury to say, I don't want to go to certain stories that don't cover who we are. And so one of my things is in the professional realm, is that I've taken the responsibility to let the management know, hey, we need our white counterparts to lean in. We need our white counterparts to cover the protests. We need our white counterparts we're not expecting you to you'll never be able to carry it the way I carry it, but I need you to lean in because I don't want to carry this weight all by myself. I don't want to look at a news rundown and see all the reads about Black people is my name or Frank's name. I don't want to be the only person that's saying Ahmaud Arbery or George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or Christian Cooper. No, make my white co-anchor do that. Make my other white colleagues come in and feel some of this, because the only way, and I think, Aaron, you said it right, if you don't feel the bite, if you don't see the severity of this, then how can there ever be change?
This is my second time working in this market. I worked in Cleveland years and years and years ago, and now I'm back, and it's challenging to see how divided the city is, having left and gone to other places and seen other things, to know how the East and West is still the East and West. And so having to figure out how I navigate that, and seeing the information come into the newsroom and trying to make sure that people are aware of all the issues for all the people of color. And that's not just Black. Here are all these things that you may not be aware of, you haven't seen, you're not familiar with, but you need to know about it. You need to understand it. And, we have the opportunity to do some of that, but it's not always easy to raise that voice. Like you said, you call into the meeting, in the morning meeting, there's so much going on, and you have to try to push and make sure you push through, with this information, that this is important, and it may not be something but that doesn't mean it's not important.
So professionally, I decided a little while ago that I'm going to work with intention and make sure that my coworkers and my colleagues who maybe don't understand, and make sure that the words are used with intention. The copies of the stories that you're reading are used with intention. And personally, I'm just, like Jade said, I'm holding people accountable. I'm tired of being quiet, and I'm tired of letting it build up. So I'm going to use my voice, and I'm going to use my profession to be able to share that story and to be able to make a difference.
And finally, Amanda.
Well, I'm going to, as a reporter, continue to tell the stories that matter the most to me. But I'm also going to continue to stretch myself, because a lot of times I feel like Danita, I feel like Frank, I'm tired, I'm angry, I'm exhausted, and I don't want to do it that day. But I have to remind myself, if I don't do it, maybe somebody else is going to be doing it who doesn't have my perspective, who doesn't know the things that I know about this community. And I have to continue to push myself every single day to show up, not only for me, but show up for all the people who need to hear this message. And personally, I'm canceling people.
Well, hey, and period. And that's the way we end. I'm canceling people. If you're not going to be sensitive to my pain, my story, my cause, canceled. I thank all of you. I respect, I admire, I appreciate your authentic expressions today. You spoke from your real space I appreciate that. I know it's not easy. This is a difficult topic, but I'm glad that all of you took the time to come together today. Voices for Change. Remember, this is a place where we share diversity of thought, authentic expression, and enlightening perspectives on topics and issues that affect our world. Thank you for joining us today for Being Black and a Journalist. I am your host, Danita Harris. Stay safe, stay healthy. Let us continue to pray for our world.